Brandon Aiyuk has a torn ACL. His coach doesn't like him, but he's still a top 100 pick in fantasy football. You answer me this question. Why is that?
It's Short King summer, dude. It just feels like no one in fantasy sports ever learns anything. Does he mistime it, or is Brock Bowers just a grown man? Brock Bowers is just a grown man. Dare I say, Rich, football might be back. In the words of Lane Johnson, this offense looks constipated. It's Short King summer.
Person here who is going to answer that question is my good friend Buck, who's the last man left standing on Brandon Aiyuk Island. He's one of the Japanese soldiers who still believe that World War II is happening in the 70s. He is firmly in the corner of Brandon Aiyuk. We are going to get more into that data here in just a moment. Buck, as of right now, Brandon Aiyuk is being drafted as the wide receiver 45 with an ADP of 82.4, depending on when the people at home are watching this. I'm going to guess it's probably lower than that by the time that they are watching this. You tell me, sir.
We can only hope.
Are the people, is it the children who are wrong, or do you have the correct idea here?
I mean, when has everybody been wrong about something before? It's just crazy. Nobody's going to like this. You're all going to hate this. I'm sorry about that. But start from the beginning. Aiyuk has left a really, really bad taste in everybody's mouths, especially yours, Davis. I know this because I'm a patron of Davis Matteks, some say. But let's start with last year. He fucked himself last year, and he fucked his team over last year. It was absolutely brutal. He held out. Bad vibes everywhere. He put his team in a terrible position. He held their feet to the fire. They almost traded him. They almost didn't pay him. It sucked. They ultimately paid him, but he was clearly not up to speed. After missing most of camp, he dropped that TD in the end zone where he laid out, got skewered all over TV, talk radio, etc. Ultimately tore his ACL, MCL in week 7 of last year. It was a complete disaster. Probably wasted a year of everybody in San Francisco's life. And it's fair to be worried about a multi-ligament injury, but we should talk about what the latest facts actually are, not what people are saying.
Valid.
Okay. So
we do like facts. We do like facts around here.
Sometimes we do. Sometimes we don't. So Shanahan said, I don't know. It's too early to tell. The goal is always early. You hope to have him right away. We were told by his doctor there's a chance, but it's too early in the process, and we'll see when we get closer to training camp and see what that looks like. John Lynch.
He did say that. Let me tell you, Kyle Shanahan, one thing I know about this man, he loves to lie. Kyle Shanahan, before week 1, remember famously Christian McCaffrey in week 1 of the 2024 season.
It was
he could have played. He could have played. He could have played.
Kyle Shanahan has a green marker on the Coachspeak index for injury trustworthiness. Just saying, it's probably all the way down, pinning at 100, and then CMC knocked him back a little bit. He's still in the green. So John Lynch was recently quoted as saying all the elite athletes heal at a faster rate too. So that just says to me that Lynch likes this guy, even though he completely fucked up last year and fucked his franchise. I probably wouldn't like him. But the last 2 years we saw Aiyuk healthy, he had 2 1,000-yard seasons. 2022, he had 1,015. 2023, he had 1,342 in 16 games with over 100 targets each year. His ADPs the last 2 years, you guys put him between pick 20 and pick 30-ish for 2 years in a row. He's a fantastic wide receiver. He's not elite. There were mouths to feed there, and the overall team philosophy led me to be out the last 2 years. I did not draft Brandon Aiyuk. I don't think he's an elite wide receiver. I think he's a very good wide receiver. But the reason that's changed now, to me, is less of a take about Aiyuk and more about Godwin and Rice and where their ADPs are and what their situations are. So let's talk about Godwin for a sec. Godwin update, Todd Bowles says he's optimistic. Chris Godwin will be able to play week 1. I'm hoping he's on the field week 1. I'll have more to know about that after this month goes on. See how he feels when he gets running and practicing and everything else. Rashee Rice update. Andy Reid said he's on track to be ready. We'll see. He's working his tail off right now. I know. Coachspeak Index has the injury arrows for Shanahan and Bowles in the green as trustworthy on injuries. Reid's in the yellow. All 3 of these injured wide receivers have a second-year wide receiver to fend off. Aiyuk has Pearsall to contend with, who ended the season with 2 huge games in blowout losses for his team where the opponent scored over 40 points. Yes, he got shot and ramped up production throughout the year. I know he got shot. You don't have to tell me that he got shot. I was drafting him, and then when he got shot, I stopped and I started drafting Juwan Jennings.
Do you want to know the funniest thing about Brandon Aiyuk and Ricky Pearsall and their relationship to one another?
They love each other, right?
Well, the funniest thing about them is that they were both teammates
Yes.
at Arizona State University about 900 years ago. They were both overrated prospects. This is actually true. You guys at home might think that I'm making this up, but the 2019 Arizona State Sun Devils, Brandon Aiyuk leads them with 65 receptions. Kyle Williams, who's getting drafted right now, as we are broadcasting this to you, Kyle Williams is about to get drafted at this moment. Eno Benjamin, who was famously a 10% advance rate guy in the first edition of Best Ball Mania, despite never recording a statistic, has already washed out of the National Football League. And the team has taken Ricky Pearsall, who you're looking at here, is the 7th leading receiver for the Arizona State Devils. Ricky, I'm by no means do not take me to be a Ricky Pearsall bull. What I would say with Brandon Aiyuk, looking at his advanced data and looking at the sample he's put forth, is the one really good season was this 2023 season. He averaged a crazy amount of yards before the catch per reception, 12.8. That's really high for a Shanahan wide receiver. If you think about the great wide receivers in the system, either they're truly great, Julio Jones, Andre Johnson, like we're talking literal Hall of Fame level talents. I don't even know if Brandon Aiyuk would make the argument that he is on the same level as Julio Jones or Andre Johnson. Or you think of the exact opposite. You think of Deebo Samuel. You think of the guys he's scammed into fantasy relevant numbers. Dante Pettis. Anyone remember the Dante Pettis scam season? So my issue with Brandon Aiyuk is frankly, let's call it threefold. Let's call it a threefold issue here with Brandon Aiyuk. The first one being, I think he's probably a little bit overrated as a talent. He's generally graded out okay in the Pro Football Focus stuff. And the Pro Football Focus stuff, I'm not taking it as gospel. You're not taking it as gospel. No one is saying. I would say it's generally a pretty good descriptive way to view how a guy plays relative to other guys at his position. And his PFF grades have always mostly been okay, except for that 2023 season where he ran, basically I view Brandon Aiyuk as a guy who ran hotter than the sun. So that is prong number one.
Let me keep cooking because I got more. I'm going.
Okay, keep cooking.
All right. So Rashee Rice is fending off Xavier Worthy to be the wide receiver one. It's a tall task. Probably anyone better than anyone, Davis, in the best ball space, that Worthy developed his game as the season went on, flashed true game-breaking potential. That offense was stagnant. Worthy was the only sign of life. Rashee mostly found success as a security blanket, running drag routes against zone, aka Kelsey routes. We don't even know that he can be a complete NFL wide receiver yet. We should not assume he's taking over the wide receiver one role when he returns after Worthy blew up at the end. Even if he's fully healthy and returns for the start of camp, he's almost definitely getting suspended. I know we think it might get pushed to 2026.
No, I've gone. I'm the other way on that now. This is not. Maybe that's a different video. I think I read Drew Davenport's tweet thread about it, and I went from he's for sure suspended the first 6 games of the season to he might not get suspended until 2026.
The answer is probably the truth is probably in the middle. He will get suspended at some point in time. It's probably more likely that it happens next year than not, but it's not like a lock. I understand that, but. I think that even without that, what I had said earlier about assuming he's going to be the wide receiver one is not good. I think it's people holding on to priors and how right they were about Rice last year. And then we have Godwin, 29 years old, had an amazing start to 2024, famously the wide receiver one, right? The Bucs were absolutely rolling with their air attack, and Godwin was coming off a brutal, fully dislocated ankle with a very painful and uncomfortable recovery. Often dealing with chronic pain, stiffness, instability, unexpected nerve damage. Those dislocated ankles, especially at a slightly advanced age for a wide receiver, are brutal. They're brutal. And you can be fully healthy, but that shit hurts. And he's returning probably at best for him, he's returning as the 1B in that offense. But he has to fend off McMillan, who actually fully broke out in the back half of last year. McMillan had 7 touchdowns in 5 games at the end of last year. He's fucking good. And I listened to you last summer before he was on any team. And you were like, the NFL is going to fucking find out that Jalen McMillan is like amazing. And I was like, well, he's probably right about that if he's so smug. And he was.
Yeah.
He was right about that, Davis. But our focus of the segment, Aiyuk, who turned 27 in March, coming off a complicated injury, but a truly excellent wide receiver talent. Has Christian McCaffrey, 29 in June, year older and injury plagued. Kittle, 32 in October, year older, more banged up. Jennings, who I love. More on him in a second. He's not close.
If you know ball, you have to if you know ball, you have to pretend that you've always loved Juwan Jennings. That's kind of the rule.
Hold on, I got a Jennings bit, but let me finish this here. Where am I? Pearsall had 2 great games to end the year in garbage time blowouts. That's true. Both the opponents scored over 40 points, garbage time blowouts. I am the Jennings guy, Davis. I had 4 shares of him in BBM last year.
Wow. Way above the field for sure.
Do you understand there were only 6,000 teams with Jennings last year? Only 6,000. Yeah. I drafted him when Pearsall got shot. I mentioned that earlier. I'm not like a Jennings truther. I just thought it made sense to draft him 4 times in like a span of 2 days. But he's not Aiyuk, man. He's a solid player who popped for 3 touchdowns against a then shitty Rams secondary. I was actually driving to a job in Connecticut, Davis, that day that you didn't play him in DFS, and I listened to you, and I was fucking shouting at you, and I was like, Davis, you just got to take this. It's easy. And then it happened, and then you banged the table for Jennings the rest of the year, and he like barely did shit. Really, I mean, he like
many such cases. I mean, I think the thing
did anything. He has a fuckload of dog, but he's not even close to the caliber of wide receiver that Aiyuk is, and neither is Pearsall, as you were mentioning earlier. So the other wrinkle in this is his contract, Aiyuk's contract. He's got 4 years, 120 million, with 76 million guaranteed. Spotrac has a potential out for him in 2027. They have a lot invested in this guy. It may be the last year CMC and Kittle have enough in the tank for a real deep playoff run. They either view him as a building block going forward with Purdy, who should also get a new contract soon, or a trade candidate. And either way, they're going to want to get him on the field and get the most out of him, in my opinion. The only way to get the most out of him in a trade is to show that he's fully healthy and still has what it takes. You know, I know we're all annoyed and burned by Aiyuk and Shanny. I'm not as burned as you guys, and maybe that's why I can see this. But the best ball community is nothing if not a community of overreactors. The facts surrounding Aiyuk's situation compared to Godwin and Rice's situation should not result in ADP's 40 picks, nearly 40 rounds apart. I mean, it's absolutely insane. Godwin's ADP is 53.3, wide receiver 27. Rice is what, 49.3, wide receiver 23. Aiyuk, 87.5 and dropping every day, wide receiver 43. I mean, like, how much less does Aiyuk have to do than Godwin and Rice to be a good pick? Like, the cost is pretty low, and it's getting lower. The groupthink is to avoid Aiyuk at this ADP, but when has the group been wrong before? All the fucking time. About, like, so much. You know, identifying the players that you were out on in the past at cost, and now the market's out to the point that you can look at it objectively and get back in. It's probably the biggest way to both keep yourself honest and maintain an edge in best ball, in my opinion. If you're waiting for him to start the season on the pup and be around cheaper before you take him, I understand. But given everything that I've just said to you, Davis, until I get clear negative news about his progress from someone who is not a Twitter doctor, it's not how I'm operating. I'm taking him.
So the big issue is going to be best ball players don't know how to help themselves when it comes to getting the negative news. They're like, oh, this couldn't possibly be priced in. And then it turns out that it actually wasn't priced in at all. We see this all the time. When Ashton Genty actually gets drafted very high in the first round, he is going to go higher. When a guy is suspended or not suspended, even though we knew it was Alvin Kamara actually is a great example of this. Alvin Kamara got his 2-game suspension, and because it wasn't a 6-game suspension, he jumped up. This was 2 years ago. He jumped up about 25 spots in ADP, even though we know it's coming the whole time. Brandon Aiyuk is going to start the 2025 training camp. He's going to be on the physically unable to perform list. You know it. I know it. The 49ers know it. Brandon Aiyuk knows it. We all know it. So he's going to get cheaper. So I don't like buying guys of this profile anyways. I don't like buying guys off of a crazy efficiency spike. And if you look at Brandon Aiyuk's career, there's just no way around it. It was far and away his best performance in everything, his best in yards per target, his best in catch rate, his best in touchdown rate. I mean, how many guys have their best season on 105 targets and then reproduce it? Now, if you think Brandon Aiyuk is this crazy talented player who's very efficient and he's going to be able to duplicate that, then it makes sense to be in. I sort of view him as miscast in this role that right now, I mean, you look at the 49ers offense, you've got, as you mentioned, aging Kittle, aging McCaffrey, Jennings, who's like a very good complementary receiver, but you would not want to structure the offense around him. And
He's
then
a two. He's a two.
Pearsall is the wild card. I mean, I don't even know if I want Brandon Aiyuk as a 27% target share guy. And I'm not saying the price is insane. Now, the price before the Deebo Samuel trade was actually insane. Drafting him in the 60s. I think that is terrible. I'm more amenable to it now.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
That's the thing is the price is like, you're like 40 picks between those other guys who are in similar injury situations. And the reality is they'll return probably within 2 to 4 weeks of each other. And if you're expecting back half production of fully healthy Brandon Aiyuk, who's the wide receiver 1 on his team, and you're getting him in the 80s, and he's going to be there for probably over half the year. It's debatable, maybe just half the year, but definitely for the playoffs, definitely on a team that maybe wants to trade him or at least get the most out of him. Like it seems like I would understand that argument if he was still in the 60s. If he was still in the 60s, I would get it. Deebo's gone now. Those other guys are older. He's going to be the wide receiver 1 on a team who is going to be worse defensively, we assume, right? Worse offensively. I mean, they're going to have to throw more. Purdy's trying to get a contract. It's all there for Aiyuk to be a good pick, like right now at that ADP, in my opinion. He's the wide receiver 4 on your team.
The guys I have clearly over him, and the reason why I don't get much of him is I clearly have Burden, Golden, and Igbuka over him. I think there's good arguments to take Hunter over him. I think once you get into this range and we're talking about just spike weeks, I think there's reason to take Downs over him. And then also that tends to be an area of the draft where you get into the quarterback stuff. But I also I greatly prefer his teammates over him. I prefer Pearsall.
You prefer Pearsall over Aiyuk?
Yeah, for sure.
Right now, why?
Because he's younger and he doesn't have a multi-ligament knee injury.
But what happens when Aiyuk comes back?
I mean, I think that's sort of the great unknown. Do they duplicate the 2019 Arizona State Sun Devils?
What do you think happens?
Frankly, I think what happens is the 49ers are going to be a diminished version of themselves, and it's probably likely to be the most Kittle has ever been used in the regular season in his career. And if his body holds up to that, then there's probably not a ton of meat on the bone. If it doesn't, I think we're going to see, the 49ers are not a high volume offense in terms of total plays run. I think we just see them kind of do it. They were like the 11th best offense in the NFL last year instead of the third best. And so then it just kind of becomes pin the tail on the donkey who scores the most points in the fantasy football playoffs on 4.5 targets per game, 5.5 targets per game.
Let me just wrap up my argument with saying that we normally think efficient players who are efficient multiple years in efficient offenses that are just like overall efficient. We think they're good players. Like we think you guys were convinced that Aiyuk was like a top tier player for like.
No, not me. I had Aiyuk ranked after ADP.
Well, then
last year too.
We were together on that. Then we were together, but we're gone now. We're apart from each other now. But if you think that Brandon Aiyuk is a good enough player to take advantage of probably 10 targets a game as a wide receiver 1 when he comes back fully healthy for the rest of the season.
I'll take the under. I'll take the under on that. I think there's just so much uncertainty with what Pearsall is, Kittle's health, what Jennings looks like installed as a starter. I mean, McCaffrey's health. If McCaffrey, like I've been saying this thought experiment the whole time, the craziest thing and the most impactful thing that could happen in fantasy football this year is Christian McCaffrey just stays healthy for 17 games, because that is just not being priced in by the market at all. McCaffrey's a second round pick.
I don't feel good about him at all. I don't.
Oh, he's a running back with an Achilles injury. Yeah,
I'm taking him, but he's got a lot of tread on the tires. He's old. I mean, last year was like a fucking disaster, an unmitigated disaster last year on all fronts with CMC. So, and they got rid of Mason. Now they got Garendo back there. It's just like, I feel like they're gonna be bad at the things we're expecting them to be good at because of the personnel decisions that they've made, and I think Aiyuk is going to be there and going to be open because he gets open,
Well, they've trimmed about $500 million in salary and they are consciously, I think, trying to set themselves up for the next iteration of the team by giving Purdy his deal and then shedding the remaining guys, of which, Kittle, Aiyuk, Trent Williams, a lot of these guys, they let their swing tackle go. They let a lot of their expensive defensive guys go. So maybe their goal is we don't mind, or we are maybe even consciously expecting to be the 13th best offense in football instead of the third best offense in football.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. I mean, a little metaphor. Say the 49ers and Aiyuk are in a relationship. They're two people in a relationship. 49ers really want to break up with Brandon Aiyuk. Aiyuk makes it really hard to break up, and he ends up doing something that makes you stay together. That relationship can still be fun. Even if you wanted to break up, you could still have a good time and prolong the breakup for a year. We could still get good results out of Brandon Aiyuk, even though the 49ers hate him.
It could definitely be a marriage of convenience. I don't disagree. As always, my mind remains open to being wrong and to being changed. And I would say my base position would be I would like to take Pearsall and Jennings now, although Jennings is getting a smidgen expensive up at the wide receiver 30s. We could look back at that as a real Marquez Callaway style situation.
Yeah.
But efficient wide receiver coming off a multi-ligament leg tear, still priced in the top 100 picks. I am slapping him with a 4% exposure blanket and a real buyer beware stance. If you guys are drafting Brandon Aiyuk in 2025, comment down below why. What's wrong with you? Are you mentally unwell, or do you think that I'm wrong? Are you with me? Are you with Buck? Did you enjoy this? Would you like more content like this? If so, like the video, subscribe to the channel, tell your friends about us, and we'll be back with you soon.
It's Short King Summer, dude. It just feels like no one in fantasy sports ever learns anything. Does he mistime it, or is Brock Bowers just a grown man? Brock Bowers is just a grown man. Dare I say, Rich, football might be back. In the words of Lane Johnson, this offense looks constipated.